If you are watching this right now, drop a comment letting me know where you are viewing from. Before I tell you about this life-changing decision, hit like and subscribe to hear more real stories. My name is Emily, I'm 34 years old, and I'm the proud mom of two sweet kids, Ava and Daniel. Life hasn't been perfect, but everything I do is for them. They are my strength, my happiness, and the reason I keep moving forward. A few months ago, my younger sister Chloe got engaged to her longtime boyfriend, and everyone in our family was thrilled. We all thought this wedding would be the celebration that brought everyone together, but when the invitations were sent out, something felt wrong. My name was there, but my children's names were not. At first, I thought it was just a printing mistake. So I called Chloe, expecting her to laugh and say, "Oh, don't worry, of course Ava and Daniel are invited." But instead, she paused and then said in the coldest voice I've ever heard, "Emily, I don't want kids at my wedding, especially not yours." My heart dropped. It felt like someone had punched me in the chest. Not only was she excluding my kids, but the way she said it made me feel like they weren't welcome, like they didn't belong in the family. I tried to keep calm, but my voice shook as I asked her why. She just brushed it off, saying she wanted a perfect, elegant wedding without children running around. At that moment, I realized this wasn't about the wedding. It was about my kids being judged, treated as less than. And the worst part? Chloe was my sister. I still remember that day like it just happened. My sister Chloe had just sent out the wedding invitations, and when I opened mine, something felt strange. My name was there, but my kids' names were missing. At first, I thought, maybe it's just a mistake. So I picked up the phone and called Chloe, already smiling, ready for her to say, "Of course Ava and Daniel are invited." But instead, silence. Then her voice, sharp and cold. "Emily, I don't want kids at my wedding, especially not yours." I froze. I could barely breathe. My own sister, banning my children? It felt like the ground under me had disappeared. My kids aren't just kids, they're my whole world. How could she say that so easily, like they didn't matter? I tried to laugh it off, my voice shaking. "Chloe, are you serious? They're your niece and nephew." But she just cut me off. "I want an elegant wedding, Emily. No distractions, no kids running around." Her words stabbed me. Elegant? Distractions? She was talking about my babies, as if they were a burden. I hung up the phone, my hands trembling. My kids were in the next room, laughing, completely unaware that their own aunt didn't want them at the happiest day of her life. That night, I couldn't sleep. A question kept repeating in my head. If she could reject my children so easily, what else was she capable of? I sat on the couch, staring at the invitation in my hand. My fingers were shaking. Ava and Daniel ran into the room, their little faces glowing with excitement. "Mommy, are we going to Aunt Chloe's wedding? Can I wear the sparkly dress?" Ava asked, twirling. Daniel chimed in, "And I'll wear a bow tie like Uncle Ryan." My heart sank. How could I tell them the truth? How could I crush their excitement? I forced a smile, but my voice cracked. "Sweethearts, Aunt Chloe's wedding is complicated." They looked at me, confused. "What do you mean, Mommy?" Ava whispered. I swallowed hard. She said kids aren't invited." For a moment, silence filled the room. Their smiles faded. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. "But why doesn't she want us there?" I felt my chest tighten. How do you explain to a child that someone they love doesn't see their worth? I pulled them close, hugging them so tightly I thought my arms might break. "You did nothing wrong," I whispered, my voice trembling. "You are perfect. This isn't about you. It's about her." But deep inside, a storm was brewing. If Chloe thought she could hurt my children and get away with it, she had no idea what was coming next. The next morning, I drove to my parents' house. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was hurt. My children were being treated like outsiders in their own family. When I walked in, Mom was setting the table and Dad was reading his newspaper. They looked up, surprised. "Emily, you look upset. What happened?" Mom asked. I slammed the invitation on the table. Did you know? Did you know Chloe banned my kids from her wedding?" The room went silent. Dad cleared his throat, avoiding my eyes. Mom sighed, her shoulders dropping. "Emily, it's Chloe's big day. She wants it to be special." "Special?" My voice cracked. "So my children, your grandchildren, aren't special enough?" Mom reached for my hand, but I pulled back. I could feel my heart racing, my chest burning. "They were so excited," I said, my voice breaking. "Ava already picked out a dress. Daniel wanted to wear a bow tie." Dad finally spoke, but his words cut deeper than a knife. "Maybe it's for the best. We don't want any drama at the wedding." I stared at him, stunned. My own parents had chosen Chloe's happiness over my children's hearts. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. If they were all going to treat my kids like they didn't belong, maybe it was time to show them just how wrong they were. That evening, I drove straight to Chloe's house. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I wasn't just a sister anymore. I was a mother fighting for her children. She opened the door, her face glowing with happiness, wedding magazines scattered across her table. "Emily, what's wrong?" she asked casually, as if nothing had happened. I stepped inside, holding back tears. "Don't play games with me, Chloe. Why did you ban Ava and Daniel from your wedding?" Her smile faded. She crossed her arms, her voice cold. "Because I don't want kids running around, making noise, ruining the photos. My wedding is for adults only." I froze, staring at her. "Your niece and nephew aren't just kids. They're family. They love you, Chloe. They were so excited to see you walk down the aisle." She rolled her eyes. "Emily, it's my day. Stop making it about you. If you can't respect that, maybe you shouldn't come either." Her words hit me like a slap across the face. For a moment, I couldn't even breathe. My own sister was choosing a picture-perfect wedding over the people who loved her most. I turned toward the door, but before leaving, I whispered, my voice shaking, "One day, Chloe, you're going to regret this." And deep inside, I knew. Her perfect day wouldn't turn out the way she imagined. When I got home that night, I tried to stay strong. I plastered on a fake smile, hoping my kids wouldn't notice. But children, they always know. Ava sat on the couch, clutching her little sketchbook. Daniel was beside her, fiddling nervously with his toy car. They both looked up at me, their eyes full of questions. "Mom," Ava whispered, "is it true? Aunt Chloe doesn't want us at her wedding?" My chest tightened. My hands trembled as I tried to speak. "Sweetheart, it's not about you. It's just her rules." Daniel's small voice broke in, shaking with confusion. "But aren't we family? Why doesn't she want us there?" I couldn't hold back anymore. Tears streamed down my face as I pulled them close, hugging them tight. Their tiny bodies trembled against mine. Ava's voice cracked as she said, "I just wanted to see her in her dress. I thought we were special to her." Hearing that, it shattered me. How could my sister, my parents, my own family make two innocent children feel unwanted? That night, as I watched them fall asleep with tear-stained cheeks, I swore to myself, if Chloe wanted a perfect wedding without my kids, then I wasn't going to sit quietly and let them be humiliated. Something inside me began to shift, and slowly, a plan started forming in my mind. The next morning, I stood in front of the mirror staring at my tired face. My heart was torn in two. Part of me wanted to stay home, shield my kids from more pain. But another part of me whispered, "Don't let Chloe win this way." I poured myself a cup of coffee, my hands shaking when Ava walked in, rubbing her sleepy eyes. "Mom," she said softly, "are we still going to the wedding?" I froze. The easy answer would have been no. But looking into her hopeful eyes, I realized, My kids needed to see that we were stronger than rejection. So I knelt down, holding her little hands. Ava, Daniel, we're going. We're not going to hide. We'll hold our heads high, no matter what. Their faces lit up, even through the sadness. For a moment, I felt their strength flow into me. But deep inside, I knew walking into that wedding would be like walking straight into a storm. My parents, my sister, everyone would be watching, judging, whispering. Still, I whispered to myself, if Chloe wants a perfect day, she has no idea what's coming. And in that moment, the decision was made. We would go, and nothing would ever be the same after. The morning of Chloe's wedding felt heavy, like the air itself was warning me. I dressed Ava in her soft blue dress, the one she loved because it made her feel like a princess. Daniel wore his little suit, his tie slightly crooked, but his smile full of pride. As I looked at them, my heart ached. How could anyone not want these beautiful souls there? We drove in silence. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight, they hurt. My kids sat quietly in the back, their excitement mixed with fear. I could feel it. When we finally reached the grand venue, music was already playing. Guests were laughing, taking pictures, all dressed up in their finest clothes. For a moment, I hesitated at the entrance. My chest tightened. Maybe this is a mistake. Maybe I shouldn't have come. But then Ava slipped her small hand into mine and whispered, "Mom, we belong here." That was all I needed. We walked through the doors, and instantly the room shifted. Conversations stopped. Eyes turned. Whispers spread like wildfire. I could see Chloe across the hall in her wedding gown, her smile fading the second she saw us. My parents' faces stiffened with shock. The silence was deafening, and in that moment, I knew the storm had begun. The moment Chloe's eyes locked on me, her whole face changed. She went from a glowing bride to someone filled with pure rage. Her heels clicked loudly as she stormed across the hall, her veil dragging behind her like a trail of fire. "Emily!" she hissed, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "What are you doing here? I told you not to bring your kids." Every head in the room turned, guests holding their breath, watching like it was part of the show. My parents rushed behind her, their faces pale, but they didn't stop her. They didn't stop any of this. I swallowed hard, feeling Ava squeeze my hand and Daniel clutch my dress from behind. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure everyone could hear it. With as much calm as I could find, I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "We are family, Chloe. We came to celebrate with you." Her laugh was cruel, echoing in the silent hall. "Family? Don't make me laugh. This is my day, Emily, and your kids are not welcome here." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some guests shifted uncomfortably, whispering to each other. I could feel my kids trembling. Tears welled up in Ava's eyes, but she held them back bravely. Daniel buried his face against me, and in that painful, humiliating moment, I realized something. This wasn't just Chloe's wedding anymore, this was a battle, and everyone was watching to see who would break first. For a split second, I wanted to grab my kids and run. My face was burning with shame, my knees weak. But then Ava whispered, almost trembling, "Mom, please don't let her send us away." That broke something inside me. I straightened my back, pulled my kids close, and looked Chloe right in the eye. My voice shook at first, but I forced the words out. "Chloe, these are my children. They're part of this family whether you like it or not. If they're not welcome here, then neither am I." The crowd murmured louder now. I saw some guests glance at each other with raised brows, clearly uncomfortable. A few even looked angry, but not at me. Chloe's face twisted with fury. She stepped closer, lowering her voice, but still loud enough for everyone to hear. "Don't you dare try to ruin my wedding, Emily. You always make everything about yourself. Always the victim." Her words cut deep, reopening old wounds. But this time, I didn't crumble. I held my kids tighter, lifted my chin, and replied, "This isn't about me, Chloe. It's about two innocent children who just wanted to see their aunt get married." The silence after that was heavy. like the whole room was holding its breath. My parents stood frozen, their guilt written all over their faces. And then, slowly, I noticed it. Guests starting to shift away from Chloe, their sympathetic eyes landing on me and my kids instead. For the first time that night, I wasn't the one being judged. She was. The music started again. The priest cleared his throat, trying to bring back the focus to the ceremony. But the air was heavy, thick with tension. You could feel everyone's eyes darting between Chloe and me. Chloe forced a smile, clutching her bouquet so tightly the flowers shook. She turned back toward the altar, pretending nothing had happened. But the whispers in the crowd wouldn't stop. As the priest began his words, a guest, Chloe's childhood friend, Sarah, suddenly stood up. Her voice rang through the hall, trembling but strong. "Chloe, how could you speak to your sister and her children like that in front of everyone?" The room gasped. My heart nearly stopped. I hadn't expected anyone to defend us. Chloe's eyes widened in horror. "Sit down, Sarah. This is none of your business." But Sarah shook her head. "It is our business. We came here to celebrate love, and what we just saw was anything but love." The whispers grew into murmurs. People started nodding, some crossing their arms, glaring at Chloe. I could feel my kids watching with wide eyes, clinging to me tighter. For the first time that night, I felt something warm wash over me. Hope. Chloe's groom, Mark, shifted uncomfortably at the altar, his jaw tight. He looked at Chloe, then at the guests, and finally at me and my kids. And in that moment, I saw it, the doubt in his eyes. The cracks in Chloe's perfect wedding day were starting to show, and they were only getting bigger. Mark cleared his throat, his voice low but steady. "Chloe, is this true? Did you really try to throw out your sister and her kids?" You could hear a pin drop. Every guest froze. Chloe's face turned pale, then red. She stammered, "Mark, please, don't listen to them. She's just trying to ruin our day. She always does this." But Mark didn't look convinced. His eyes locked onto mine. "Emily, is that what happened?" For a moment, my voice got stuck in my throat. I never wanted to cause a scene, but the truth had already spilled out. I swallowed hard and nodded. "Yes. She told my kids they weren't welcome, right before you walked down the aisle." A sharp gasp rippled through the crowd. Mark's jaw tightened. He turned back to Chloe. "Why? They're your family. They're children. How could you do that?" Chloe's hands shook around her bouquet. "Because it's my wedding. I get to decide who's here. I wanted a perfect day, not..." She paused, glaring at me and my kids. "Not distractions." That single word, distractions, hit me like a slap. My children's eyes welled with tears. And then, something unexpected happened. Mark slowly stepped away from Chloe. His face was hard, his voice sharper now. "Chloe, if this is what perfect means to you, then maybe I don't even know who I'm marrying." The guests erupted in shocked whispers. My heart pounded. Chloe's perfect day was unraveling, and this was only the beginning. The hall was buzzing with whispers now, louder and louder, until one of Mark's uncles stood up and raised his voice. "Family is everything. If she can treat her own sister and children like this today, what will tomorrow look like?" The crowd murmured in agreement. Some guests shook their heads, others crossed their arms in disappointment. You could feel the tide turning. Chloe's smile had completely vanished. Her hands trembled, her face flushed with anger. "Everyone stop! This is my wedding. You're supposed to support me." But instead of calming down, the guests began shifting uncomfortably in their seats. A few people even started standing up. My kids squeezed my hands tighter, their little hearts racing. I could feel it. Then Sarah, the same friend who had spoken earlier, stepped forward again. Her voice cracked with emotion. "Chloe, you say this is your perfect day, but what we all just saw? It's ugly. It's cruel. And I won't sit here and pretend it's okay." The room fell silent again. Sarah turned to me and my children, then looked back at the guests. If these kids aren't welcome here, then I don't think any of us should be. A murmur of agreement swept through the hall. People began nodding, some even clapping softly. Chloe's eyes went wide with panic. She could see her wedding slipping right through her fingers. Mark rubbed his temples, his face dark with frustration. Chloe, I warned you before about this selfishness, but you never listen. The silence that followed was heavy. Everyone knew something big was about to happen. It started with just one couple. Mark's uncle and aunt quietly stood up, gave me a soft nod, and walked out. The sound of their footsteps echoed through the hall like thunder. Then, another guest stood, and another. Within seconds, entire rows of people began leaving, their chairs scraping loudly against the floor. Chloe's eyes darted around in shock. "No! Sit down! All of you! This is my wedding!" Her voice cracked as she screamed, but the more she shouted, the faster people left. I stood frozen, holding Jimmy and Lily's hands tightly. My heart was pounding, half in fear, half in disbelief. People were choosing to walk out of her perfect wedding for us. Tears stung my eyes as Sarah leaned toward me and whispered, "See? You're not alone anymore." Chloe dropped her bouquet, her face twisted with rage. "How could you do this to me?" She yelled at the guests leaving, her voice echoing off the walls, but no one looked back. And then, the most shocking thing happened. Mark, the groom, took off his jacket slowly and placed it on a chair. His expression was unreadable. The entire hall went silent again, everyone waiting for his next move. Was he about to walk out too? Or was he going to defend Chloe one last time? The suspense was unbearable. Mark stood there, his jacket neatly folded on the chair, his hands shaking just slightly. Everyone in the hall was holding their breath. Chloe's eyes were locked on him, desperate, almost begging. "Mark, don't you dare," she hissed through clenched teeth. "This is our wedding. You promised me everything." Mark's voice was low, but it cut through the silence. "I promised to build a future with someone kind, someone who values family. But right now, I don't even recognize the woman I'm marrying." Gasps rippled across the room. Chloe's face went pale, her mouth opening and closing like she couldn't find words. He turned his gaze toward me, then down at Jimmy and Lily, who were still clinging to my hands. These kids, they never asked for any of this. And yet today, they showed more heart than you did. Chloe's voice broke into a shriek. "You can't just walk away from me, Mark. Not today. Not here." But Mark shook his head slowly, his jaw tight with pain. "If this is what it takes to be with you, humiliating your own sister and her children, then no, I won't be a part of it." And with that, Mark stepped back, away from Chloe, away from the altar. The hall erupted with whispers, gasps, and shocked faces. Chloe's perfect day was crumbling before her very eyes, and she was powerless to stop it. Chloe stood frozen, her dream wedding unraveling in front of hundreds of people. Her makeup streaked as tears ran down her face, but there was no sympathy left in the room. "Don't leave me, Mark," she screamed, her voice raw. She reached for him, but he stepped back again, shaking his head. "I can't marry someone who treats their own family like this," he said firmly. His words were final. The guests who had stayed began to clap, not for Chloe, but for Mark. The sound grew louder, echoing through the hall like thunder. Chloe covered her ears, sobbing uncontrollably. Jimmy and Lily looked up at me, their eyes wide. For the first time in a long time, they saw that the truth had won. I bent down, hugged them tight, and whispered, "We're going to be okay now." Then came the twist no one expected. Mark turned to me. His voice was steady but filled with regret. "I should have stood up for you earlier, Anna. I was blind. But from today, I'll never let anyone treat you or your kids this way again." The entire hall went silent. Chloe collapsed onto the floor, crying, while Mark walked toward us. He didn't touch me, didn't cross a line, but his choice was clear. That day, Chloe lost her wedding, her guests, and the man she thought she owned. And I walked out holding my children's hands, no longer broken, but stronger than ever. because sometimes the truth comes out in the loudest way possible. What would you have done if this happened to you? Drop your answer in the comments. I'm reading every one of them. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more real stories that will leave you speechless. See you in the next one.